Okay, let's get this over with. We have a lot to talk about. So there's a thing called school, and I was not really doing well. But yeah, there was D's and F's. But eventually, I did get them back up, and I wanted to do something cool to make it up for how long I haven't been uploading for. I said, hey, I'm gonna be doing a big upload month, which is gonna be 1 video per month. Day! Some agreed, including my brother. And some really didn't, but that didn't stop me. I was gonna do it whether they liked it or not. It was the best idea ever. Yeah, they were right to doubt me. Turns out 1 video per day was not really the best idea, because that means I'll have to work on all 30 videos at the same time. I mean, I know I could do a 1 video, you know, just work on 1 video, but the thing is, I got my grades up as soon as I seen how long I haven't been uploading for. It's already been like 9 months. I know it says a year, but that's when I improved. So yeah, back in my last video, I said I was going to do a StickNodes tutorial, and I wouldn't say this is really a tutorial, but tips and tricks how you could actually animate a lot more better. Because there's a lot of mistakes I see people do, and then I see a lot of things that people can do to improve their animations. I already have a script for this, so hopefully I'm not forgetting everything. But eventually, maybe if I do think about something that isn't in my script, I'll probably talk about it just to give more details. Alright, enough talking. Let's start this. Okay, so before I get started with what I'm talking about, if you're new, hi. I'm not gonna say anything else, but I hope this helps you out. If you are, you know, if you guys know me already, you guys already know how I animate. It's not really the best, but it's acceptable. Everything I'm going to be talking about is pretty much was on the video at the very start of the video, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's get started. So, number 1, I highly recommend you put your FPS at 18 to 24 frames per second. It makes it more smoother. At first I used to put it at 10 frames to 15 frames, and it comes out good, but it's very choppy. And sure, choppy is like the main thing that's going on with animation, but there is a thing called too much chopping, if that makes sense. And it doesn't really look that good. Another thing I want to talk about, now that I'm talking about frames, is tweening. Tweening is basically the beginner's level of animation. Not trying to put any heat of tween users, but I don't really recommend it. If you're trying out slower frames per second, I highly recommend you use tweening. That way it looks more smoother, but at the same time, if you don't use it properly, it will make your animation look more weird, and you would much rather want to use no tweening. But if you're new, or if you really feel like having a very much smoother animation, by all means, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Now that we're talking about frames again, let's talk about keyframing. By the way, keyframing is just like a lead of what you want to do. You can always put extra frames between those keyframes to make it more smoother. I highly recommend you use the tween frame option once you press on a frame, and you can always ease it out using that. Oh my god, I forgot about this part. Foot placement. My god, I hate it when I see walk animations, or any animation in general, where the foot is not placed correctly. Dude, you gotta make sure your foot, or whatever character's foot, is properly placed for each frame. You have the onion skin for a reason. The onion skin helps you by, you know, kind of showing you what your last frame was, or you have to make sure the foot is placed properly. Otherwise, your character is going to look like it's sliding across the floor. Another thing, double framing. I love this part. Whenever double framing happens, it's usually whenever the character is doing a slow action. You can see it a lot through my video that just started off. on the, start of the video. I'm not good with talking, okay? But basically, double framing, like I said, slower movements. All you're doing is just, you have the one frame and you just add another frame without doing a single thing to it. And that's pretty much it. Now that we're talking about backgrounds, let's talk about sprites and sprite backgrounds. I'm going to just say this, sprites are really useful. It helps me a lot with like making backgrounds and other stuff. Sprites aren't also used for backgrounds only. You can use them as, little animation things. You can make like actual like sketch animations using the sprites. You can have sprites as like an item. That's pretty much it for sprites. Next thing I want to talk about is sounds. Sounds is something you always want to have in your animations, unless you want to make a silent film or something, I don't know. But if you have StickNodes Pro, you literally have a whole library of, any sound that's on the StickNodes app. There is a way you can import sounds into StickNodes, but I'll put that in a later video because I got a lot more stuff to talk about. Now, if you don't have Pro, you won't be able to have access to these library sounds, but I'll get into that later on in the video. Now here's the good stuff. Another thing, blurs and smears. Blurs, I would say Pro version only has, and it'll be super hard to edit if you don't have Pro, which is why you have smears. First, let's talk about blurs. Blurs, I would say, like, if you're making like maybe a realistic type of animation style, like maybe motion blur. But if you don't have Pro, you have smears, and smears is basically like, not traced, but like sketched out movements that go along with whatever movement is happening. Like if you're making a punch, you'll see a lot of times that there is a line going, I would say, tracking back from where the punch was coming from to where it is now. If that doesn't make sense, I probably have it in the video to show you. Alright, now that we got done with the animation part for now, let's talk about the camera parts. First off, camera movements. Camera movements, I'll tell you how the camera works. There's a button right next to the panning mode, which, obviously activates the camera, and you can just move it around. The camera is just used to show what part of the animation you're trying to show. Another thing I want to talk about is auto camera. Oh man, auto camera has been a lifesaver for me because a lot of times I am lazy. Whenever I want to like make maybe a calm part of an animation, like just people talking, and I don't want the animation to look stiff, I'll use auto camera to make sure the camera either pans out or slides across whatever action is taking place, and it makes the scenery look a little bit better. How to use auto camera, you have to go to the very start of the frame where you want to use the auto camera, then you click on it, you click on auto camera, the button obviously, and there should be an option of what frame you want to stop the auto camera on. Under that, you have a lot of options of what the auto camera would have, like you have ease 1, ease 2, swing, bounce, elastic, so on. I will go over this another time because we still got a lot more, but once you select your frames to where you want your auto camera to be in, you should just let the magic do its own thing. I would say, before you use auto camera, you have to make sure the 2 frames that you chose, the start and the end, are different angles or different placements for your camera in order for it to shine. Next thing I want to talk about is parallaxing. Parallaxing it's kind of complex if you don't know what it is, but if you guys know what it is, it should not be that hard for you guys to understand. So basically, parallax is where, let's say for example, the camera is moving. Whatever object or whatever background you have connected to the camera, it would either go along with the camera movement or it will go against the camera movement. If it's going along with the camera movement, the object or the background would follow the camera. If it's going against the camera movement, it'll try to move away from the camera whenever the camera is moving. I'd say stuff like that, you would want to make sure like your parallaxing is affecting backgrounds or foregrounds. That's where it really works. At least that's for me, that's what I've been doing. You can do this by doing the positive parallax, which goes with the camera movement, and the negative parallax, which goes against the movement. I'll talk about this later on. It'll probably be a different subject, like maybe camera tutorials, whatever. Now that we got the animation stuff out of the way, it's time for the editing. This is for you non-pro users, or pro, whatever you guys want to do, but this is mostly for people that want to have more stuff in your animation if you don't have the pro version. For example, sounds, you can edit them in the video. I highly recommend using InShot, CapCut, or Vita. InShot I prefer the most because it's simple, it's effective, and there's not much lag. Vita, you have more stuff than InShot, but the lag is horrendous. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know. CapCut I never really used often, so I don't know how the effect or experience is, but if you guys want to use that, you guys can. Now, when you're making your video, if you're going to publish your video to YouTube, one thing I would say, and it's not a priority, but if you want to add a thumbnail, like, you know, thumbnail making, here's what I'll do. What I'll do is I'll take a PNG image. You can do this actually on StickNodes too. Make a frame and put whatever stuff you want to have in that frame. And there should be an option where it says export as GIF, PNG, or MP4. You want to select PNG, name the PNG, make sure it's not the same as any other PNG file, otherwise it will probably delete it and replace it. Put it to whatever quality you want, and whatever frame you selected, there should be like a start frame and an end frame, but if you just want to make a simple picture, you don't have to mess with it. But you would want to, you know, just export to PNG. I highly recommend either PixArt or IBIS Paint. I use those two, and it's pretty helpful. You can either draw in them, or you could just put little shadows in there if you want to help your picture stand out. And just like that, we are done. That's all I have for the script, and that's all I have to talk about. I can't really think of anything else unless you guys can tell me, and I will acknowledge it. I will try to upload more often. I'm not going to go on a one-year vacation again for something stupid, or something that was my fault. But hopefully, by now, you should be seeing more videos more often, and I'll try to work as much as I can to make it up for it.
Hey, you good? Yeah, for the most part. Well, did we really have to fight to test the stadium out? Well, it was either that or you give me the $5 you owe. Oh. Rematch and I don't have to pay you. You lose and you have to pay me double.